Good morning, and thank you, ACC, for joining us. I'm Nicole Bell, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special campus conversation about the 3Cs at ACC. Today, we're here to share with you some progress updates and let you know what's coming next for 3Cs training. In the next few months, we'll launch some new professional development, workshops, and webinars. Everyone on the call today is here to give you details on what to expect. It's my honor to introduce our panel to you two. First, we have our Chancellor, Dr. Richard Rhodes. Thank you, Dr. Rhodes, for joining us. We also have our Vice President of Human Resources, Ms. Jerry Tucker. Hi, Jerry. Several of us from HR Staff Development and Organizational Development team are here too. Hi, Nana and Anelia. And all of us will be sharing information with you about the 3Cs. And we want to hear from you too. We'll be monitoring the live stream chat, so please share your thoughts, questions, and comments there. If you don't know how to do this, here's a quick tutorial. First, look for the dialogue icon in the top right corner of the live stream box. Click on that, and you'll be asked to enter your name. Once you do that and hit enter, you'll be able to chat in the live stream. We'll follow your questions and comments, and we'll get those towards the end of this conversation. With that said, I want to hand it over to our Chancellor. Dr. Rhodes, the 3Cs are an integral part of your priorities and strategies for all of us at ACC. Tell us more.
You bet. And thanks, Nicole. Thanks for moderating this and putting this together. So at ACC, student success is our North Star. And when we think about that, it means that every single employee at ACC must be committed to that mission. And during the past 15 months, we've been faced with a health crisis, we've been faced with an economic crisis, social emotional crisis, a racial injustice crisis. And if that wasn't enough, we also had the winter storm disaster. And so when we think back, if we go back about 12 months or 13 months ago, we were only about 2 or 3 months into this pandemic crisis that we've been facing for so long. And so during that period of time, we really had the discussion and the conversation about, what kind of a culture do we want to build at ACC, looking at the future and what the pandemic has presented us with. And so as a part of developing the Chancellor's priorities, Priority 6 really addresses that. And Priority 6 states, foster a safe physical and cultural environment in which students and employees can thrive. And we have 2 bullet points within that. One is safely reopen ACC facilities as needed to support student enrollment, persistence, and completion. So it comes back to our North Star. And that's, how do we help students be successful in achieving their dreams? Second bullet is build a supportive culture of collaboration, connection, and caring in a manner that improves internal communications and transparency and increases employee and student satisfaction with college operations. And so when we look at that, as a result, during the past 15 months, we've really focused on some new vocabulary words that we probably didn't use that often in the past. And that is flexible, it's dynamic, it's fluid, it requires patience, and it requires grace. And so those have become the standard vocabulary for where we are today. And the lessons learned during this past 15 months is communication, communication, communication. Honest, transparent dialogue, courageous conversations, professional development, and of course, with grace. So what this requires is the coming together of the college family in addressing what we want as the culture at ACC that will best position us to reach our North Star, true student success. And that is a culture of collaboration. It's a culture of connection. It's a culture of making sure that every person here feels that we care, so that our students feel that we care what happens to them, whether or not they succeed. And so when we break it down and we talk about collaboration, we're really talking about how do we work together as a college family? What do we do together? How do we share what's happening and going on? Connection, making sure that every single employee, every single person at ACC understands clearly what their role is in student success in making that happen. Because like I said earlier, every single person must be committed to that goal of student success. And then when we talk about caring, it's treating each other with respect and dignity. And so that's the environment, that's the culture we want to thrive at ACC, so that not only can our faculty and staff thrive, but how do our students thrive and achieve their dreams? And that's what we care about. That's what we want to see happen. So I hope that puts it in kind of a context with kind of a history of how we got to where we are today.
Thank you so much. Ms. Tucker, we would love to hear from you. A little bit more about how those 3 words came about. We hear that there was a conversation that you and Brett had. Also, how we manage this climate and connect that to our mission and vision. We'd like to hear more from you about that.
Hey, Jerry, you're on mute.
There we go. Chancellor Rose expressed it so eloquently, so I won't revisit that. But I can tell you that as a result of a cabinet meeting in which we talked about how our faculty really accepted the challenge with our students. They jumped in there and they really stepped up to the plate to help them. Our employees did the same. And we observed that since our employees are remote working, that it was really difficult for them to feel our concern for them. And so after the conversation with the cabinet, Brett and I were talking, and we said, our value statement talks about open, honest, and respectful communication, collaboration, and teamwork. But we felt what was missing is our employees need to know that we care about them as much as they care about our students. And so that's where we came up. We just really added the caring part of it because we already had the collaboration. And we felt teamwork is sort of connection, but we want to connect with employees in a very different way, a heartfelt, honest, open way so that employees know that we care. So that's how it came about. And so we proposed it to Dr. Rhodes and the cabinet, that we wanted to embark upon this, not a campaign, but a change in our organizational climate so that people would feel, what we needed them to feel in order for them to feel that we value their services. And we were excited about it because it requires that both employees and supervisors come together to show the 3 C's. It's not just saying, supervisors, you need to do this. What we really want is for the culture to be impacted by everybody. And everyone needs to be able to show that we care not only for our students, but our employees. And so that's how initially we got started. It's the meeting after the meeting where a lot of things happen.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. And thank you for this. And thank you for your time this morning and coming and sharing with us those stories and the information about where we're headed with this. What I'd like to share next is what we have coming up as far as training. We're really excited about this piece. We've been working diligently over the last few months and working collaboratively with a few others at the college, which I'd like to make sure that I mention because we've all been working together. Missy Patterson, Brett Lee, Jenna Hagee, Nana, Adiana Gaviria, Inelia Kamanke, myself, and Jerry Tucker. We've all been working on developing some wonderful opportunities to really engage in the caring, connection, and collaboration training that we have coming out in the next few months. So we have some webinars that we have invited some special guests to participate in with us over the next few months. And this will start early July and moving into early August to mid-September. And so our first webinar will be one that covers caring, and our special guests for that will be Deans Brandon Watley and Roxanne Royalty. And then we'll move into connection, and our special guest for that will be Dr. Sam Echeverria Cruz and Mr. Larry Davis. And our last will be covering collaboration with Dr. Shasta Buchanan and members of her team. And after we debut each of those webinars, there'll be additional learning that will happen through LinkedIn playlists that we'll pull together, and they'll be featured on a landing page on the professional development website. So you'll be able to access that information. We've also curated various articles from different periodicals such as Forbes and Harvard Business Review, so that you have other learning materials to go along with those different, with our buzzwords, with care, collaboration, and connection. Because as we're building our culture, we want to make sure that we're engrossing ourselves in the learning as we go along. So moving forward, we'll be focusing on those priorities of care, connection, and collaboration. And we'll also have some interactive opportunities that myself and Anelia and Nana will be pulling together and inviting you to come in and experience with us. So that wraps our updates for the 3 C's and the training. And we want to take some time now to get your questions and comments. Yes, Nana, please add.
Good morning. Incidentally, I just got a question from one of the managers that I have a very good communication and collaboration with, and they are asking, will we be available to unpack some of these trainings and conversations and to continue this communication and to how best serve our employees? And the answer is yes. It is always yes. It's always yes. My team, all of HR, but in this case, my team is open. We're available. We are one chat away, one phone call away, and very soon, starting in September, we'll be in our offices so that we can talk about it and continue unpacking these important conversations. I've had these conversations with many managers since all of this plan came about, and they're very excited about it. So I strongly encourage you to be part of these webinars, to take advantage of the playlists in LinkedIn, to read the articles. I promise you, they're not very long. They're succinct. They're gonna take you straight into the core of what you wanna know. And as Jerry and the Chancellor said, this is about our culture. This is about our environment. For me, this is very important because it connects directly with engagement. And I know, in the bottom of my heart, I know that you will be excited as we are about this training, because it's gonna open up the door to learn so much more, such as we'll be talking about emotional intelligence and exploring that and hopefully starting you in that journey and helping you along that journey. So we are very excited about this opportunity. Thank you.
Nicole, if I can add that the training will not only be learning the definitions, the expectations, but really the important thing is, how do these things show up in our work environment? And as an example, I want to thank the association presidents for bringing to our attention that mental health was a big issue for employees during the pandemic. And so our way of caring is to put out all of those resources that we can find to help employees reach their full potential and their health. And I understand that it was greatly used. And so that's the kind of reciprocal relationship we want. We want employees to let us know what they need and we're going to respond, but we want to provide them with what they need to know that we do care. And so the training will really focus on, so how does that look in our work environment? And that's just one example. There are probably many in terms of, you know, employees and management showing that they care.
You are exactly right. That is exactly the approach that our team will be taking. As part of that will be crafting those conversations with leaders and management to talk about it with their team about how does care, connection, and collaboration already show up in what we do, and how can we continue to build upon that and make it that much better. It's a practice that we've already done with our own team, and in that been able to create and craft how we want to move forward as a team and do our work at even a better and be a better service to those that we serve at the college. Okay, so Michelle asked, is there a website or a place where we can find the definitions of the 3 C's? And Michelle, yes, there will be a website. It'll actually be on our landing page, but there will also be a website that's coming soon from our marketing department, where they will have a landing page that's all about the 3 C's. But in the meantime, we will have a landing place on the professional development website that has information about the upcoming webinars, as well as the LinkedIn playlist, and we will also list the current definitions for care, collaboration, and connection. So yes.
Nicole, we should thank the employees that participated in the focus groups.
Absolutely.
Those focus groups helped shape the definitions that we're going to be using. And so we really appreciate their feedback, and we hope that they will see themselves in the definitions as they get rolled out soon.
Yes, as a result, the feedback from the roundtables that happened in the spring, that actually crafted a lot of what we're doing with the training that's going to be rolling out in the next few months. So yes, that feedback was very valuable. And those are the types of things that we will continue to do as we move forward, so that we can always craft this type of training to be responsive to what our employees want. Another comment, has leadership, management, and supervisors, have they been trained, or will we all be learning the 3 C's from webinars? So we'll all be learning together, and the webinars are webinars that are crafted from our own employees here at ACC. So there will be conversations about how care, collaboration, and connection show up in what they're doing at the college already. So yes, I hope that answers your question. If you have another, feel free to ask.
And that includes me.
Yes.
I'm going through training.
We have to start. I mean, the best way to change a culture is to have buy-in from the top. So thank you, Chancellor Rhodes. And change a culture is probably not the right way to say it. Our culture, care, collaboration, and connection already exists here. We're building upon that culture at ACC.
We're transforming it.
Yes.
That makes it more dynamic, more flexible, more inclusive. So yeah, we're going through a transformation, and so far it's been really good.
I want to remind you, if you have other questions, feel free to look for the dialogue icon at the top right corner of the live stream box. Click on that. You will be asked to enter your name. And then once you do that, you can hit enter and you'll be able to chat in the live stream, and we'll be happy to take your questions. Enelia, would you like to add anything to this about the 3 C's and your experience in building the training and the rollout?
I can tell you that I'm very excited about the work that we're doing. All the connections that we are strengthening as we are building this work has been invaluable. As we have reached out to different departments, they have been more than helpful, very willing to show up and to demonstrate what it is like in their departments, how the 3 C's show up. And so I am grateful to strengthen those connections across the college and to hear those stories, because that is what really brings up for me some really visual ways of how these really important words manifest in our college. And I know it's hard for us to, I mean, these are words that are used in everyday language, but to see them and to hear how they translate into action and translate into a live situation in different departments has been great for me personally to learn from, and will, I think, be great for the college in general. I really appreciate, again, the connections and I feel like the caring has been there in that all of the partners that we've reached out to have said, how can we help? And have been more than willing to assist us in any way possible to do that. So I certainly appreciate it. And on a more personal note, I know that we as a department in HR have talked about the 3 C's and how we can live this more truly. And I appreciate leadership in giving us that platform to have these discussions, make sure that our voices are heard, make sure that we are seen. I really appreciate these discussions that we've had that have led to formulating a more cohesive way to move forward. And so that has been my experience with the 3 C's, and I really very much truly appreciate it. And I mean, here we are with Dr. Rhodes, who has an extremely busy schedule, and has given up his time, and Ms. Tucker, and a lot of people that have gathered here to make this happen. And I just think that this right here demonstrates the 3 C's in action, just this right here. So I appreciate everyone. I thank you all. And I'm very much looking forward and excited about the 3 C's and how we will be strengthening them.
And now you know why she's my all-time favorite training partner. Okay, thank you, Amelia. Ms. Tucker, I have a question for you. So how can we proactively take steps towards collaborating across departments and divisions? And where are we already seeing this happen holistically?
I think we are seeing it happen all across the college. Student services is a great example of how they collaborate with all the other departments in the college. Business services, particularly with the ERP that we're now doing, they have reached out across the college to other departments. So I think we're seeing it, we're just not recognizing it because we don't see it on a day-to-day basis. But I think we're all doing it in our own way. And what we want to do now is really to solidify that relationship. And we'll be doing it by asking departments to have team meetings. If HR, we've been meeting with business services quite a bit because of the new processes, but we need to come together like as a staff meeting just to talk about where we are and what we're doing. And I think you'll remember that Neil did that last year. He had a major meeting with all of his departments so that we could just sit and talk with one another. So we need to do more of that. And we need our employees to feel free to reach out where they need other resources so that they're not having to go to the supervisor to say, can I talk to or can I get? We want them to take the initiative to pick up the phone and say, John Doe, I need this from you. So while we're doing it, we just want to make it, we want to embrace it a little bit more so that employees feel comfortable that that's our way of doing business.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Nana, I have a question for you. And this is about continuing education credits. Technical question. And probably one that can be answered via email, but I'll ask, will we be providing continuing education credits for this training?
Yes, we will. Okay. This is definitely something that is high up on our list. It could, it's professional development, but it's also a skill that we will all be learning and further developing throughout the trainings. Plus, as I said before, we're going to be bringing some additional topics that when we talk about caring, collaboration, or connection, we also have to talk about those topics at the same time, such as communication, emotional intelligence. So for some of us, those training topics are more familiar than for others. So yes, we'll be providing professional development credit units for that.
Okay, thank you. So I have two other questions. The first comment is about flexibility. And this can be for either you, Ms. Tucker, or you, Dr. Rhodes. It says we're talking about flexibility, but there seems like there'll be less flexibility in the fall with our return to campus. Do you foresee more flexibility getting implemented to continue to serve remotely?
I'll start that and I'll let Chancellor Rhodes add to his. I think, as an organization, when you look at the change cycle in the pandemic has definitely bring a change. After you go through that crisis, there needs to be a period in which people regroup, re-identify what they're doing, how they're doing it. And so the fall is our opportunity for employees to do that with their supervisors and management. And we're hopeful that once we have that relationship and we have those discussions, that in the spring we can get back to the way in which we did operate, but also doing it more efficiently and effectively. So we recognize that the fall will be a time period in which we're kind of readjusting to being back in the workplace, looking at what we need to do differently, because we won't have to do things the way we did before the pandemic, because the pandemic created other opportunities for us. So I think in the long run, we will get back to business as usual, but we really have to go through this period in the fall where we're kind of readjusting and making everything fit where we're going in the future. Dr. Rhodes, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think you hit it perfectly, Jerry. And, so it is a period of time where we take lessons learned during the past 15 months. And by the time we get into fall, we're looking at closer to 18 months, a year and a half that we've been in this. So we look at the lessons learned and how can we make sure that we're meeting every needs of the students. One of the things that I always go back to is one of my mentors, Dr. Terry O'Banion, wrote a book a few years ago called The Learning College for the 21st Century. And a part of that book, the charge to community colleges is for every decision that you make, how will it enhance student learning and success? That's the first question you have to ask when you're making a decision. The second question is, how will you know that it indeed did that? And so what are the metrics? What are the data? What are the questions that you ask to make sure that that decision, the way you answered that decision, actually does happen? But I think, there is one other question that we always have to ask ourselves now in today's world. Have we looked at that decision or that question under an equity lens? And that is so critical in today's environment. And so I think, as we transition, there are some things that, maybe it is appropriate that it be done somewhat virtual. And other things that because of the way we answer that question, our students are going to need to have us on campus, on our campuses, and opening those back up again. So, like Jerry said, the fall is going to be kind of this transitionary period to where we're evaluating everything that we've learned and everything that we're doing and making the right decisions for the right reasons.
I love that, with an equity lens. Thank you, Dr. Rhodes. Nana.
Yes.
Is this training mandatory?
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. I think it's important that from the get-go, we make it mandatory for all of us. We're all gonna be part of it. You heard the chancellor from the top to the bottom. We are starting with the managers and supervisors across the institution. But yes, we want every single one of the managers to attend the training, just like right now, my department is collaborating with the equity office, with Larry's office, to deploy equity training for managers across the institution. And we've been doing that since the beginning of the year. And every time we are reaching out to more and more supervisors to be part of it. So these will be part of the same effort. Our goal for the chancellor priority in this regard are huge. I mean, I wish we could say within the year, 100% of the managers will be trained, but we understand that coming back in the fall, in the whole spirit of regrouping and assessing, we might not be able to get to 100% of them, but we want to get very close. So yes, expect multiple communications from my office. For lack of a better term, we'll be very, I want to say, persistent. Some of you are going to say, there they go again, nagging me with communication. Yes, we are. We will be. We want to make sure that you attend, that you participate, that you let us know how you feel. Culture stays in the heart, starts in the heart, but it also impacts the way you think and obviously the way that you behave and the way you act. So I'm going to say yes. And I see my boss, Jerry Tucker, nodding, saying yes. So that's great. We're always on the same page in that regard. So I'm very excited about it.
We will be connecting often so that we may collaborate because we care.
Beautifully put. Yes.
Anything else you want to add? Oh. Question here. Will classified employees have access to equity training? I already know the answer to that, and the answer is yes. Yes, a million yeses, yes. We're working on that, and that'll be rolling out. I don't think in the fall, I think in the spring, correct? Yeah, we're working on that. So that answer is correct. That answer is yes.
And what I can tell you, the trainers can tell you this too, and Larry can tell you this later on when we have that conversation with him, is that the training on the part of the managers have been very well received, to the point that they are already asking us to plan can we do a follow-up of the training, because they want to unpack, they want to talk, they want to discuss. And they want to find the best strategies to, with the lens of equity, to support their employees. So it's been very positive and it's been very valuable.
Yes, and it's been a pleasure to work with Mr. Davis and do that training. So yes. I'm waiting to see if we have any other questions, but in the meantime, is there anything else that anyone would like to add?
That question actually gets back to priority one of the chancellor's priorities: reduce equity gaps in student access and success by increasing diversity and strengthening student programming and training. So let me say that again: strengthening student programming and training for faculty and staff. And so that is, we have already created the Equity Council under the leadership of Larry and Kyrie. And, they're already doing strengths proficiency training for staff and faculty. We'll be opening the TRHT, Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Center at the Highland campus very shortly. And then, looking at how the strategic enrollment plan actually focuses on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so all of that is wrapped up into priority number one.
Nicole, I might add, just for our audience to think about, when we think about organizational culture, I know that's a elusive word, but it's real important for us as we embark upon this initiative. If you think about a four-legged stool that you're about to sit on and you want to make sure it's strong, we also as an organization have four legs. We've got our mission and values and our direction and vision, which Chancellor Rhodes provides for us. We've got our business processes, which all of the departments are responsible for implementing so that we're effective and efficient. We've got our systems, and I will be so glad when the ERP is implemented. because that's going to drive what we do. And next we'll have the student services ERP, and that will drive what's happening on the student side. So we're working on those three. And the last is people, working to ensure that our employees and our students are taken care of, they're safe, they're healthy, and they're ready to help us with the mission of the college. And so we are just trying to strengthen that fourth leg as it relates to our climate and what we're doing internally, so that our employees and our students feel like we are supporting them in the best way that we can. And so I just want us to remember that the culture is a lot of things, but what we're talking about with these three C's is that we want to implement that throughout everything we do, whether it's business processes, our systems, working with the community, that it's not seen as just a word, but it really is been implemented in all the operations and things that the college is doing at this point. So I just wanted to share that with our employees. So when we say culture, we're really talking about everything that's going on.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Tucker. I have another question from the audience, and this is about returning back to campus. And the way it asks, why are we going back 100% without collaboration from employees who are doing the work? What's happening there to collaborate with employees?
Well, it was felt that we needed to have employees return to work, first of all, because that's, the jobs that we empowered them to do. And so we want to come back and have that discussion as to, do you need flexible hours? Is this good for remote working? How do we change what you're doing so that we can serve our students better? That is a conversation that we need to have in the fall, but we felt like it was not a good conversation to have remotely. We really wanted employees and supervisors to be able to sit down and talk about, let's look at what has happened over the past 18 months. What do we need to do differently? What do we need to change? And so we will collaborate. Doesn't mean everybody gets, what they would love to do. But it does mean that we get your feedback and your input as to how we can be more effective going forward. And so the whole idea is to come back and have that sit down discussion as to how do we be more effective in the future. So we're hoping that we provide that opportunity for teams to get together and to talk one-on-one.
Okay, thank you. I have another question about, and the point you made about the culture being throughout the whole college. Really, when I've done my research, what I've read about culture in an organization, it's like the breath, that it's the air that we breathe, is what I've read. And so that's a really great point that you've made. So the question here says, do we have a starting point as to how the college is doing with the 3 C's and where we want to go? How will we know when we're done? How will we determine if the training is effective? And I'll just share, and Nana has alluded to it some, in my research and best practices, because that's what we do before we start to create training, is that because culture, when you're starting to strengthen, enhance culture, they say that it should be almost automatic. It should be something that everyone understands, that this is just who we are. And as we put up the definitions, what I think people will find is the way that we've worded them is together we will, because it states these 3 C's, care, connection, and collaboration. It should show up in who we are, how we operate, as Ms. Tucker has said, how we behave, as Nana has said, because it's ingrained in us that this is how we function, because this is who we as Riverbats believe we should show up to our students, each other, and to the community. Mm-hmm. So to know it's effective is to know, I think, when we're doing it on autopilot, like yes. you make that decision because that's how you do things at ACC. But Nicole, I invite you all to add to that, please.
Yeah. Nicole, if employees will look at priority 6, there are 3 parts to priority 6. One is the training. The second is communication, which our marketing department is great at. Mm-hmm. And the last is surveying employees. And we hope that employees participated in the recent survey to give us some feedback about the culture. But we will also have several other surveys that go to employees to let us know how we're doing. And of course, that will be communicated through the associations and with employees. But we did take into account that we need to look at not only what are we doing to embrace the culture, but how do we test it out to make sure we're doing what we say we want to do. And so Jenna and her team will be doing several surveys that will give us employee feedback so that we can begin to look at our achievements as it relates to the 3 Cs.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to add, in terms of we start here, we end here, this is a journey, and I don't think that will never end, right? We're gonna continue growing. It's gonna be part of our culture. It's already part of it. We just need to start looking at it and recognizing and growing it. So it's a journey. It's when we talk about in the future about emotional intelligence, you learn that as well. It is a journey. You're never 100% emotionally intelligent because it's really hard to do it. You know, it's human nature. But as Nicole said, it's gonna be second nature, but we need to continue strengthening it. We need to continue working on it. And we cannot just say, oh, we did it, we're good. We need to continue working on it. That's what I wanted to say.
Nana, we should also remind them that it will be part of our PEP program that will be integrated in our performance evaluation. And Nana's team is also working on upward evaluation. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we found out that the system that Workday has is not what we exactly want. So we're researching other 360 programs so that we can have some team feedback. So as Nana said, we're trying to integrate it into everything that we do, and it will definitely be in the performance evaluation, both with employees and with teams.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for mentioning that.
It's like a muscle. We're always going to be exercising it. Always, always, always.
Yeah.
I have another question. So the question is, can you clarify the ways this differs from the ACC's Servant Leadership Initiative?
Sure. Servant leadership is really designed to focus on how we do what we do as a servant. We are not getting rid of that concept that we are all servants, we're all leaders. We're just going to integrate that into what we're talking about in terms of how we become servant leaders, how we act out as a servant leader. And so I'm sure Nana is taking note that, you know, we need to make sure that we integrate that servant leadership. And again, that was, you know, an initiative that we started a long time ago because we felt there was a need for our employees to feel like they are serving, but they're also a leader. We wanted them to be able to step up to the plate and be part of the process and to be assertive. And so just like we use that to integrate our values into our culture, we're doing the same thing with the 3 Cs. We're just integrating our values into our culture and hoping that it will go a long way. So those are just ways that we try to achieve our mission and our vision, our values through the college. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, and I might just add to that, as a leader, you should have a servant's heart. So you have to understand what that means. But then when you break that down into components, what are effective practices to become a servant leader? And that's where the 3 Cs really come in. You know, it is through collaboration, it's through connection, and it's through caring. That's how you become a servant leader.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So another question coming in on the hopper. 1 second. Gotta love technology. Why is training separate for managers? And why not train all together?
Donna, you want to address that?
Yes, I was muted. We felt that we wanted to start with the management, with the leadership, to have a thorough understanding what the 3 C's mean, where they show up, so that they can start implementing some of the strategies that we'll be sharing with all of them. That to say, this is not where it ends. I mean, in the future, of course, we'll be providing training for the employees, and that training will be provided in conjunction with the managers, because we want the managers and the employees to have these conversations, to sit in those staff meetings and really reflect upon, okay, is this true collaboration, true connection, and the true caring that we want to bring about. So we just felt, in terms of very operation speaking, that we wanted to start with the managers, but definitely it'll be followed with the training for the employees, where we managers and employees can be trained together, because we're all part of it. We're in this together. Yeah.
Nana, we should say that the training will not differ, but we do hope the discussions and the experiences that are shared will be heartfelt, honest, and open.
Yeah.
And we wanted managers as well as employees to be able to feel like they could talk about what their issues are, what their weaknesses are, where they need help. So it's not an opportunity, to separate our employees, but it is an opportunity for our groups of employees to really be able to be open and to get some help with what they need as it relates to the training. And we just thought that initially it would be good for us to focus on employee groups, but in the end we will have, dual training so that anybody can go. But I think it's not meant to keep us separate, but really to provide the opportunity for people to share their experiences and to be really open and honest about what they need in this training.
And in the trainings, we'll be encouraging the managers to bring what they're learning and start having those discussions with the employees. So yes, as Jerry said, we just needed a starting point, but it's not the end.
Thank you. Okay. So I want to remind you that if you have questions, to feel free to jump in the chat. You'll find it at the upper right-hand corner of the live stream box. Click on that, enter your name, hit enter, and then feel free to enter your question in the live stream chat. And then I'll get it and I'll ask. So happy to have you here with us this morning. Are there ways for each group of employees to hear the issues the others have experienced? And I'm assuming this is as we're going through the trainings for management or for managers. I'm not sure. That's the way the question was asked. So and Jerry, you're muted, but I'm gonna just take a stab and say, as we're going through the trainings with the managers, it's really important for myself and Nelia and Nana to curate spaces where we allow those managers to show up fully and to share fully. And so it's not likely that we will share what's shared with us in those rooms. We honor their confidentiality. We often say what's shared here stays here, but what's learned here leaves here. And so that's a practice that we hold near and dear to our hearts, especially since we're in HR and there's a confidentiality clause too. Because it's very important to us that when you come into that space and we do this learning with you, that you're able to fully be vulnerable and transparent in that learning. But if there are valuable lessons there that can be shared with others, then definitely those valuable lessons will be shared. But not things that are of a confidential nature. I hope that answers the question.
Nicole, we might also think about putting on the website a newsletter that updates employees as to how these things are working or not working, what are some areas that we see it working in to help them. And so we want to integrate what we're learning through the training. So we'll think about putting something on the website that shares information about what we're learning as a result of the training that we're doing. So that's a good point.
We can certainly put that on the landing page on our page, not a problem. Another question is, let's see. Oh, it's not here yet. 1 second. So, might I make a suggestion? We're getting some questions. We continue to get some questions in this campus conversation that are not necessarily tied into the 3 C's, but are more tied into the question about returning to work. So there may be an avenue for a different campus conversation. Unless you want to answer them here.
No, we do have a return to campus committee that is working on the health and safety of employees as they return to work. And Dr. Wayne Maines is over that committee.
Okay.
So why don't we send those questions to him and Brett and ask them to respond to employees, since we don't have all the information about the specifics. They certainly will be able to respond to those questions, and we can make sure they get out to employees.
Okay, so what I'll do is as those questions come in, I'll gather them and I'll send them over. And it's about 9 minutes out. So I'm going to ask for one last call of other questions. And then I think we've answered most of the questions that have come in regards to the 3 C's. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for joining me today so that we could have this great conversation about what's coming up and what's next. I'd like to let you all know that are watching that the landing page that we've been talking about that's going to be on the professional development site, we will have some information up for you by the end of this week. There'll be some dates that we have coming up with our special guests on those webinars that are coming up in July, in August, and end of August, early September. And again, that's with Deans Brandon Watley, Roxanne Royalty, Mr. Larry Davis, and Dr. Sam Echeverria Cruz, and Dr. Shasta Buchanan, and some of her team. And we're going to be talking about care. We're going to be talking about collaboration, and we're talking about connection. So I want to thank you all again for joining us. And, again, I want to thank those of you who took the time over the spring semester to share your ideas. We've been going through those and including those as we have been developing the definitions and the training. You were a definite big part of this process, and your feedback continues to guide our work. These programs are some of the first to launch, but not the last. This will be ongoing work because it starts here, but this is, again, practice makes practice. We're going to be exercising this muscle until it becomes second nature, as we've said before. And we will have more coming up into the fall and spring semesters. And we're going to continue to integrate the 3 C's until it becomes seamless in our everyday work with our students, with our colleagues, and with the community. We truly appreciate all of your support and the work that you've done to help strengthen the good work that we're already doing here at ACC. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in this morning and for joining us. Dr. Rhodes, thank you for your time. Ms. Tucker, thank you for your time. Inelia, thank you. I can't wait to be in the office with you again. Nana, thank you. Thank you for your guidance and your leadership. And thank you for the tech team and the interpreters for joining us this morning. I appreciate you, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Great.
Bye.